So welcome to the first of what we hope are many episodes in this series called Spiritual Shadowboxing. We don't really know what this is going to be. We're just exploring. We think that there's something here with the idea of spirituality and shadow work and boxing, and including all of the physicality, the spiritual realms, and kind of doing our inner work. So the three of us are here to explore and invite new guests in. And so, Kelly, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, so I'm Kellie Walsh, and I have the Divine Hive, which is a platform for community, for health, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. I facilitate guided meditations as well as being a long-time boxer. My background is in Wado Kai, which is a Japanese-style martial arts. I was a black belt and trained for years and years, and even performed in the United States Karate League when I was younger, in kata, which is forms, and in fighting. So I love to bring the aspect of boxing, shadow boxing, where you do by yourself, and the opponent is really you. In front of you. So, and then, working with our shadow selves as well. I just thought, like Kelly said earlier, there's some synergy there. There's something here that we would like to explore. So that's why we are bringing you these episodes.
All right, Fereshta.
I am Fereshta. I am a songwriter, photographer, nature lover, and have really been mentored by amazing teachers in shadow work, including Debbie Ford, and then in-depth psychology with Jason Gaddis. So my offering is really being able to support self-liberation as an ally to my clients, and also just being able to connect the dots of childhood to how we relate as adults, and also when those strategies don't work, how to bring in a new energy.
Thank you. And I'm Kelly Campbell. I am an agency transformation coach. So what that means is I work with creative leaders to really help them transform their lives and their agency. And you can say that in many different contexts. It could be their own human agency or their physical agencies that they run, these organizations that provide creative services. I actually work with Fereshta as my shadow work coach. And so there's some really nice synergy here. And then I've become friends with Kelly over the last few years and been meditating with her. And she's photographed me at a time when I was really releasing a lot of things personally, physically. So yeah, we don't know where this is going, but there's definitely something here, and just really happy to go along the ride for the exploration.
Exactly. Yep.
So I think what I'd like to do is start off with a reading from a book called Prayers of Honoring Voice. This is something that I came across. It's a Native American writer called Pixie Lighthorse. And there are just these prayers that, I don't know, they just speak to my soul. So this one particular prayer is called Honoring Practice. And I would invite you, if you want to close your eyes if you want to listen to this in a little bit of a deeper way. So I'm going to read this for you. Honoring Practice. Thank you for this day of ritual devotion. Guide me to the mat, the trail, the teapot, the canvas, and the confrontation table today, so that I may test my flexibility and stay true to my form all the way to my edge. Be my mirror, my educator in matters of discipline and rhythm. Open the shelter of my mind to constructive, caring feedback. Let all that comes to me be my teachers. Move my form and feelings with dedicated habit. Help me to rehearse for growing stronger and more resilient. Stand me up like a mountain. Spread my arms wide, expanding and clearing the valves of my heart to help me to move from it. Point my fingers skyward and widen my stance. Wrap enormous wings around my legs to strengthen my rooted position. Train me for the battle which takes place within me in the form of fear and resistance. Help me to create spaciousness inside of my container, to make steady progress with my breath, my invocations, and the attitudes that initiate my day. Lead air into my lungs, which comforts the grief held there. Enhance my supportive routines with the golden light of your encouragement, which shines through repetition. Let my body be a living ceremony. Bring me back to presence when I wander. Help me to refocus without shame when I lose my way. Make me brave to notice where my balance falters and I compromise my integrity. Rededicate me when I discover what I'm holding and protecting. Get me back on conscious feet when I fall. Let my wingspan be the bridge between my spirit and my body. Ignite the fire of my willingness during times of challenge and overcoming obstacles. Put in front of me those who will help me persevere in my attempts to effectively resolve inner and outer conflict. Remind me of my tools for perceiving what prevents my flow. Help me be attentive to my part in maintaining the quality of relationship I am called to cultivate. Help me puzzle together my healing form with the help of Earth's electricity moving upward through the soles of my feet. Let me know that I am not alone and that I never need to do it perfectly.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
So, Fereshta, I'm going to hand it over to you. And you're going to tell us a little bit about what shadow work is and how we maybe create a new normal.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, so I like to describe shadow work in the way that my mentor Debbie Ford did, which was this analogy of a castle, that we are born in this big, beautiful, multi-roomed, just amazing castle. And from about 0 to 7 as children, when we are really sponges, we don't have the faculties to really filter truth from just someone else's experience. We start to close doors in that castle. You know, don't be selfish, don't be mean, don't be a liar, don't be so big for your britches, right? Like self-praise. And slowly we begin to close these doors. We do it for self-protection. We do it for attachment. It's an incredibly wise part of a young child that says, if it's between my self-expression or my attachment to survive, I'm going to choose attachment. What happens though, and I find this about midlife for a lot of people, is they wake up one day and they're a 2-bedroom flat that needs a lot of work and they're miserable. And there's something in their psyche that knows they are not experiencing their freedom. So it's beautiful, like burying treasure and then one day being demanded internally from the soul level to go find it. So I consider myself an ally in that treasure hunt for people. And it's really about owning the parts of ourselves we've disowned, mostly because it's been shamed. We're not really celebrated. Right? So a lot of our core gifts are within those places that we've just buried. And we've buried them to keep them safe. So it's sort of all good at the end. It's just really taking the time to unearth where we put those things and why they actually matter to us. And the other piece with death psychology is that a lot of people, when they wake up in that 2-bedroom flat that's really needs a lot of work, that's their strategic north. That's who they've bended themselves to be, to belong. But at a certain point, the heart and soul knows and just won't stand for it anymore. Hopefully, that's my hope. And what the work is to really own everything, the totality of your human experience, the spectrum of human emotion, and get to a true north, one that feels upright, in alignment, coherent to who you really are, which also includes removing some chronic roles or some toxic people, and mostly just looking at your side of the street and making the changes that are truly in alignment with who you are and who you're becoming.
Wow. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's really beautiful. I mean, the work itself is really, it's painful. When you dig in pretty deeply, it's painful, but I think it's worth mentioning that leaning into that work and having that courage and that bravery to say, I know this is going to feel really painful and this is going to hurt. My chest actually hurts just from saying that, because I remember that, right? But on the other side, that liberation, there is literally nothing. There isn't even a word for it.
I love the fact that you said freedom in your dialogue, and I think that especially now, I think people understanding about the sense of freedom in their own personal self-isolation or isolation with their family because of what's going on right now with the COVID-19. I think that, I always said before that freedom is not a place, but a space, right? It's a space within. And I think that, as we have allowed the silence, the quiet of this isolation or cocooning or whatever you want to define it, in the silence, our soul can speak to us, and it can tell us that the freedom that we seek is within, not without. And when you were speaking, I was getting all little tingles on the top of my head and all woo, a little excited. But I loved what you said. And one last point is what really struck me is the midlife crisis that people claim to be having, right? It's like, we get to a certain age and it's people that want to define us or control us or want us to remain the same, want us to remain small, call it a crisis, a midlife crisis. It's so negative. Why aren't you going back to who you used to be? But it's not a crisis. It's an awakening. It's an explosion, right? Like, I hate that word. It's like, I'm 50 plus. I'm not going to really tell you my true age, but, about 3 or 4 years ago, I started having all the things that you were talking about, and wish I had you in my life. Glad you're in my life now. But yeah, and everyone would say, oh, you're having a midlife crisis. I'm like, you damn right I am, so I love everything that you said. And I think that, that shadow work that is on the collective forefront right now, don't you think? Like everybody's kind of talking about shadow work. Do you feel the same way?
I think we're in an involuntary workshop of sorts. Yeah,
It's a
I
good way to
do.
put it.
I feel, I call it a midlife check-in because so many people right now, talk to a lot of people during the week, they are wanting to go back to normal. And I'm just like, hold on. Make sure that everything from back there is worth going back to. Like, let this be a checkup. Let this be a time you've got quiet, you've got stillness. Let that whisper come in from your soul. Don't just go back to normal because your scared animal wants, safety. No, that doesn't work. And I do consider myself a freedom fighter because that part of me that's like, I want everyone to have their personal power, their choice, and their emotional freedom. And from that place, like, people can serve, people can give, people can function at extraordinary levels.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of my favorite Rumi quote, which is, never give from the depths of your well, but from the overflow. And it's like, if you fill that up by clearing all the stuff out and you fill it up with like the good, then the capacity that you have to give, to serve others, to love in a different way, to show up in a different way. There are many people, I would say like the vast majority of people, who don't even know, they can't even fathom or imagine what that looks like. Right. And so it's like tapping into this unknown quality, this unknown essence, that whatever you think it looks like or feels like or tastes like or sounds like, you have no idea. Like, it's that beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
I love hearing that from you, Kelly, because yeah, it is. It's something in the fabric of our psyche that changes.
Yeah.
The shifts on so many levels. It ripples through.
Yeah.
And it's really, when I think of anyone who comes to work with me, they want to redefine the word victim to mean something closer to hero. They
Mm.
know
So we
there
can
is
all, yeah,
there is testimony and testament and triumph in them, and they might not know how to get there, but there's a part of them that is just ready, and
right.
that is a joy to be part of.
Well, I
Yeah.
have a
And
question. Oh, go ahead, Cal, and then I'll go.
I just, what you said is like, I feel like, what pushes us and what I've talked to Kelly about, like sometimes I feel like invisible hands behind you, kind of moving you towards the right people that need to come into your life to give you the tools that you need to find that freedom and to become the superhero that, we're multidimensional beings. So let's put our wings on, our cloak on, and, be all that we can, live the potential that we have.
Yeah. But sometimes that tool set that you're talking about is literally just finding the people that can hold space for you in the way that you need it in that
That's
moment. Right.
very
So
true.
that's a tool also. It's resourcing.
Mhm.
Yeah. We often think our resources have to be internal, like our self-care and, all the things that we've learned, the gear we've put into our backpack for our life. But
Right.
sometimes resourcing is resourcing another and holding space, for your process. I think it's one of the most healing parts of relationship.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that when I think about like the analogy of like a tool belt, right? And like, how full is your tool belt? I want to take the largest pocket that's stitched into that tool belt, and I want that to never have anything in it. There are no tools in it, because that for me is like the space. That's where I resource. That's where I call my friends, or I have a session with you, or my Buddhist psychology coach, or whoever. Um, I
That's
think
great.
that there's something important about having that empty pocket in your tool belt.
I love that. That's great. That's a beautiful analogy and a beautiful visual. And I think visuals are really important for people,
You're just thinking about me in a tool belt. That's what's happening.
Yeah. Don't go there, Cal.
Now I'm going to get red. You're going to see it.
Woo, I think I'm already ready. Woo, let's get
So
right
funny.
Flashing over here.
This is what happens. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Spiritual magic hour.
but I am a big thing about space. I think that maybe because of my years with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he's really about his meditation is always connecting and understanding the space around us. The sensing the floor above you, the ceiling above you, the walls, and just connecting to the actual space around you, and then connecting to the space within our own bodies, our organs, our cells, our DNA. So I think holding space, and we can do it non-locality in the fact that energetically holding space, we don't actually even have to be in the same room, right? We
Definitely
can,
not.
just in my intention to hold space for you, for both of you, we create the space, which is, and I love that. I'm never going to forget that toolbox visual. Thank you.
Tool belt, yeah.
Yes.
Fereshta, I have a question for you. Something that you said a little while ago kind of brought up another thought for me. You were talking about how the people that work with you, how they're coming to you because they don't know how to get to where they need to get to, right? Like they don't have that wisdom, or they don't have that. Do you find that that's actually, like, in your work, do you find that that's not really the truth? It's just that they've either suppressed it, or that they don't trust their own intuition, or their own feeling in their body, like that they're not aware of it, more than it's that they don't understand how to get there?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. I feel that deep down, this is what gives me hope when someone comes to me, is like that nudge, Kelly, you were talking about. The part of their higher self
That
has
invisible
come
hand.
online. Yeah, the part of their higher self has come online, even if a lot of their self is in suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're already onto themselves, which is really fun for me.
Mm.
And yeah, it's not that they don't know how. It's a good distinction. It's that they have not built the inner alliance to trust what they know. So a lot of the work is just practicing rebuilding trust with oneself, befriending one's emotions, leaning into disturbances and seeing like, look, you're not going to die if you feel that big, intense emotion. It's going to feel shaky. Like you said, it's going to feel crappy, but you're not going to die. And for most of us, we have this annihilatory panic around really big, intense emotions. So we avoid them, and then we don't really trust ourselves that we can navigate our inner world. So it's reparative. It's mostly just getting someone to collect evidence, new evidence of their own strength.
To testify.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, it has to be your felt experience. Someone can't just tell you.
Right.
And then you do become the witness of it, maybe allowing yourself to move above the emotion in a way, not being unattached or disattached to your emotions, but just lifting above to be more a witness of them, and allowing them to be what they're going to be, We always want to hold on to our, like, stop emotions, or like, I shouldn't feel sad. And, a lot of people, like, they never say I shouldn't feel happy. Everyone's like, I shouldn't cry, I shouldn't be sad. But yes, you should. You should be the full expression of sadness as much as being the full expression of joy. Because that really is the divine as us incarnated, to feel those emotions. Like
100%.
you said,
Yeah, 100%. And I know, something my mentor used to say is that the container that holds your pain also holds your joy, your aliveness. So to kind of tap on something like that really has you living at a baseline that's a little flat. Right?
Exactly.
It's like, why not just put your swimmies on and ride those waves? Like, life is more interesting.
Yeah.
You get to live more deeply and love more deeply and fiercely. I don't know that I would trade that for kind of half alive and caged.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something that Brene Brown said one time, something about along the lines of numbing and like being avoidant. And she said, when you numb because you don't want to feel negative emotions, that act of numbing also numbs positive emotions. And so like when you numb, it's not like it's only going to numb the negative or numb the painful. It's also going to numb the joy. So like, would you want to reduce that? Like that doesn't feel on equal footing, right? So it's like, why wouldn't you want to experience all of it? Why wouldn't you want to have it all? Right? Like there's something really beautiful about both.
Yeah. It's very true what you just said, Kelly, and I really resonate with that because, in my experiences and some of the things that I've been going through and had gone through and still going through, I do feel like I've numbed the pain. So, and numbed my environment and my situation to be in a level of tolerance. And because of that, how much joy can I really experience? So it is, to really look at that, honestly, in my own life too, I have to look at that. It is, like you said, stepping towards the unknown, crossing the river of change. Again, quoting Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know why I keep quoting him today, but
that's okay. Bring them in. Bring them all in.
Come on, I start talking like, space. But he says crossing the river of change, and what kind of boat will we build for our crossing?
It's interesting that you use the analogy or the metaphor of like crossing a river of change. Like a recent analogy or a recent like feeling that I've had that's kind of like come into my mind's eye just about a week ago. It was like I had this feeling that I was walking on a tightrope, and like the tightrope was, whatever the land was, it started here where I was, and the tightrope was definitely over a body of water, but it was really high up. And I had this feeling of like, I'm on the tightrope. I'm walking slowly, but I am walking. I don't want to look to the left. I don't want to look to the right. I don't want to look down. I'm also having some trouble breathing because if I take a breath in, my body might be wobbly, right? I could fall. And on top of that, the tightrope, I couldn't see what it was attached to on the other side. So it just kind of disappeared into this fog or like clouds. And I was like, but I'm still walking. And I'm compelled to walk. I want to walk.
Visible hands.
Right. And so, yeah, you're in this like precarious position, but you're called, you're compelled to move forward. Right. So yeah, it's interesting, like how these different visuals or feelings in your body sort of surface. And I think it's about the recognition of them and the awareness of them and the consciousness of them. So like I observe them, I accept them, I sort of peel them apart a little bit, and then I let them go and then just keep walking.
Right.
But it takes practice. It's not something that I would have been able to do 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Well, and we also grasp so seriously sometimes to our emotions in the moment. What I think is really a beautiful way is to gently hold them. You know, it's like Rumi's guest house. Allow them in,
Yeah.
give them tea, see what they're up to. And I think when we bear witness to our own emotions, they feel heard. You know, they do become friends. That
Beautiful.
sense of like, okay, Bruce Tift calls it embodied immediacy, right? Just being with the emotional intensity, just being okay with that. And it's okay if you need a coach to be a little held when you start to do that for the first time. Again, as children, we learned if it's overwhelming, if I can't process it, if mom and dad aren't helping me process it, I'm going to learn a way to grow tolerance, right? Like Kelly was saying, because I need to survive in this. The unfortunate part is when we do that all our lives, and there's that part of us that goes, something's not quite right. I'm not in full expression. I'm not in just absolute allowance of life. You know, I'm not feeling my aliveness. And that experience of feeling free and alive hopefully calls us all into some path of growth.
Yes, it's so beautifully said. And, I think that, because of what's happening with this virus, I think so many people are being called and becoming witnesses of that, maybe shadow, or, becoming more of the observer of things that were not working. And like going back to what we wanted to really talk about within this episode is about what is going to be the new normal. When we awaken from the slumber, because I keep feeling that it's a slumber.
Yeah.
What do we want to become? How do we serve? How do we understand the unity of us all and the collective consciousness that we share? And moving away from fear, which the media has us in right now. Do we want to be a collective of fear, or do we want to be a collective of love? So
I know what I want.
I know what we want. We all want love. That unity consciousness, and I think that, I feel like the collective consciousness is doing a big old shadow workshop, right? I think Mother Earth has gone through the shadow work. I think we are going through the shadow work. I think a lot of people individually at first, but I think, collectively, a lot of people are really starting to ask themselves the deeper questions.
Yeah.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah, exactly. Amen.
So,
I'm
yeah.
finding there's struggle there for people. There are people who, there's the saying, you dig the well before you need the water.
Mm.
So there's people who have had spiritual practice, meditation, whatever has been like the gear in their toolbox. And there are people who are just starting to dig the well, who are thirsty.
Exactly.
And so having compassion if they are in fear or scarcity, that their whole world is being turned upside down and they didn't sign up with a coach. They didn't sign up for a shadow workshop. Mother Earth has sort of put us all on a soulful retreat. And that's a challenge, for people who, let's say, have built their life on some form of certainty, right? Now you're in the waters of uncertainty. And for those who maybe have used busyness as a form of escapism.
Distraction, yes.
Right? Now there might be a different busyness if the kids are home or, there's other things. But for the most part, people are having a lot more stillness than they're used to. And of course, that's when things are going to rush up to be healed.
Right.
And like Kelly said, thank goodness, like that we're all kind of purging. Does it have to be pretty? Detox is not very pretty. But shamans say when you're in the sweat lodge and you've just thrown up, you're getting well.
Right.
They're not
Yeah.
saying you're getting sick.
Right.
It's
Wow.
getting well.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Cal.
No, go ahead.
Again, I love that about, digging the well before you need the water. And I think that us that maybe have, been people that have had a spiritual practice or have done our meditation, our work, a little bit on ourselves, we can now hold the space for the people that are starting to dig their wells, to start to, we can share the space to have them have this experience and know that, as you said, they're being held.
Yeah.
Right.
And we can share a ladle of water with them while they take their well.
Yep.
The holy water. I'm big into
Yeah.
holy water.
We all get to serve each other right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to go back to something that you said, because it's going to probably be something that I want to talk about in the next episode, which is this idea of the busyness, sort of that escapism, that busyness, or that doing from a Buddhist perspective, that action orientation, that execution, the doing energy. It's a masculine energy, right? And so what's happening is, like, yes, we can talk about it in the context of Mother Earth saying, I'm just going to ask you to be still. I'm just going to ask you to cocoon. I'm going to ask you to be and stop doing for a while. Yeah, we're still working from home. We're still getting stuff done. But at the end of the day, we are in an involuntary cocooning. And so we're being asked to go into this more feminine being energy. And clearly we needed that, right? Because there was such an imbalance of this masculine energy, and we need to recalibrate. And I think that's really what's going on. And so that's really uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially when you consider the fact that, like, a basic human need is belonging. It's communion, right? It's community. It's relationship and connection with other human beings. So of course, like, isolation is unnatural, which is why it's like you have to go inward and not say, let me rush back to get back to work. Let me rush back to get back to my normal life. It actually really hits me when people are like, oh man, I wish this thing was over. Like, I just want to get back to my life. I just want to get back to work. I just want to get back to I just want to go back. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Do not do that. So I think that's what the question is. And here we're not answering anything. We're just asking more questions. We're just, giving some food for thought for people. What do you want to rush back to? I mean, you probably don't want to rush back to everything. Maybe your reality is something that you're going to recreate, right? So what does that look like? What questions do you need to ask yourself? What do you actually want to go back to? What do you want to bring with you, right? It's like going on a trip. We're going to create a new reality. We're going to move to a new town. Okay, well, what do you actually need, and what stuff can stay in the house, and what stuff do you need to throw out?
Exactly. And a lot of people that are in the spiritual world, are talking about the ascent and the ascension and bringing heaven on earth, or earth becoming heaven, more of that unity consciousness. And if you want to set an intention, and as we are co-creators with the divine, how do we create that new heaven? The visual about having heaven on earth is so powerful, because I think we all understand what heaven is in our minds. No matter, most religions and faiths has a definition of what a heaven or nirvana is. And if we can use that as a collective thought as we move forward for the new normal, that maybe the new normal is creating a heaven on earth. And how do we define that for ourselves, for our family, and for the community and the collective?
I love that. And I feel so deeply right now, whether we'll see this in hindsight or not, we are reimagining civilization.
Yeah.
Collectively, everyone doing their work every day. And Kelly, to your point of, the masculine overdeveloped in at least this society, and the feminine being a little bit underdeveloped, we're doing our reps in the feminine now. We're building that muscle that's been a little bit less powerful in this culture. And that, to me, I see it in the individualism that has driven American society to now, even though we're isolated, we crave being community held.
Mm-hmm.
So that balance is happening too. You know, the feminine is yielding and receptive and communal and not me, mine, and you know, that sort of energy.
Yeah.
And I think when people talk about uncertainty during these times, yes, outside your door, totally uncertain. I get it. However, I do believe we can build some real certainty right now. Who do I care about? Who do I want in my tribe? What's my purpose? What really matters to me? What do I actually give a shit about? Like, that's the questions that I feel we can build in certainty even during this time by stabilizing like our truth. So I get excited about this time. It might sound strange because
No, it's not strange at all.
I think we're all excited in some.
Yeah. Those are the questions. Like, that's where it's at.
Exactly. Those are the questions, really.
If we're not having that conversation, like, why are we even talking? I mean, I really feel that way.
I feel that way too.
Yeah.
I agree.
yeah,
I don't have time for small talk anymore. Like, let's go deep.
isn't
Let's
this
go
like,
all in.
for those of us who can't handle being surface treaders, we're like, yeah.
I don't want the surface. I lived on the surface for 38 years. I don't want any of it.
I know.
I'm grateful for it, but I want to dig. Give me some shovels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me some boxing gloves.
All right. So, that was a good segue to building the muscle of the feminine, right?
Yes.
So we'll shoot over to Kelly, and you're gonna teach us a little bit or tell us a little bit about why it's so important to get this energy that we're all talking about out of our bodies and how we might be able to do that.
Sure. Okay, excellent. So, like I said earlier, I have many, many years of being a martial artist and also a boxer. So shadow boxing is how boxers, martial art people train for the ring, train with another opponent. So when you shadow box, you're boxing with yourself. You are the opponent. So you kind of learn to just kind of, move the body, dip and, punch and avoid. And it's just, the movement itself is just a way of taking this energy that is coming in and moving it through our extremities, because it can get stuck. This energy that we're working with can get stuck within our bodies. So boxing, there's so many benefits of boxing itself. I mean, it helps with mental illness, self-esteem, and it also helps with your brain, because when you're doing shadow boxing, you're doing routines like jab, jab, cross, hook. You're doing combinations, which is just not physical, but it's mental. It's like dancing. It's like a dancing. So, and also I'd like to incorporate a little rope jumping, because that's great for the lymphatic system, which we all know can help our immune system at this time. So there's so many benefits physically for boxing, and then the mental aspect of working the brain as well as working the body. And spiritually, you have a good boxing match, and shadow boxing, you feel good. You just feel really good. So we're going to start incorporating a couple moves. I'm going to show you a couple gloves. So these are called Rev Gear. You can also get Titleist have boxing gloves. These are 14 ounces or 16 ounces.
I have ringside ones.
Right. Ring size are good. Yeah. You can go online. 14 ounce or 16 ounce means the weight. So a 16 ounce would be a little bit heavier. So if you want a little bit more, a little extra weight to help with the shoulders and the arms, to give you a little bit more resistance, 16 ounce might be good for you. These particular ones, since we're not actually hitting a bag, the MMA style, which are kind of fingerless. So either those will work. And as Kelly and I were talking, can be important, especially if you decide to take it further and, get a bag on your own, or if finally when we come out, we have kickboxing classes or boxing classes. These are wraps. You can, there's a way to wrap these around your wrist, 5 or 6 times. And then, there's an art to it. You have to bring it through the fingers. This whole ritual that you do before you box, for me, it's very kind of like Zen-like. Like I bring the cloth through the fingers, I wrap it around, and I'm just preparing my body, my mind for the physical activity. So I just love wrapping.
So weird that you're saying that. I thought I was the only one. I was like, I love wrapping. Like I don't have as intricate ones as you do. I have just like a single thing, but they're very elastic and stretchy. And so like I only can wrap them around like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And I like them to be super tight because I've had this is super important for anyone who's going to do this, because I have had some wrist issues. So wrapping is really important, but you're talking about it as ritual. It's sort of like, I totally understand that, because when I'm wrapping, it's like I'm preparing myself.
Like I feel good right now just doing this. I'm like feeling really good.
There's something about the wrists being wrapped that's like really,
and
there's
it's
a pleasure to it. There is like, I mean, this sounds weird, but there's a weirdly erotic power to it.
It's empowering, Kel. I feel it's very empowering.
Yeah, like I don't know. There's something where it makes me feel safe, but also sexy. Is that weird?
Well, you're a sexy boxer. So, I do like I feel like it is like, it's like self-care, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm wrapping my hands and I'm cocooning my knuckles, separating the fingers by putting the spaces with the threading the actual material through. And like you said, protecting the wrist. So like, I sit there, professional boxers have their coach do these for them. They sit there and they just have it done. But I love the whole sense of doing
There's something nice about doing it for yourself, though.
Yeah, it is.
Because I've had somebody else wrap my wrist and there is a different feeling. Like I like it. I like to do it myself.
And it looks really cool, too.
Maybe that's a control thing. I don't know.
I think I'm just going to walk around all day like this. Yeah.
Okay. I think you should.
I'm going.
And it matches your scarf too. You got some red going on there.
I have a very Emma Peel, who was from the Avengers outfit on today with this like English raincoat and a hat and my little scarf. I'm going to wear these out now. So this is usually you wrap both hands, but I really don't need to show you. But when you do, if you want to buy these, you can go online to learn how to wrap. There is a specific way. People argue about different ways, but enjoy the ritual, the breathing, preparing yourself for the shadow boxing. Okay. Another thing I wanted to show you is if you want to get a jump rope to understand. I think I'm gonna have to push back on this, right, so you can see a jump rope. I'm thinking if you want to start this, at 30 seconds on, 20 seconds off for jump roping. 30 seconds on and 10 seconds you can stop building up. So to understand. If you have the proper, this is too big, as you can tell, I put knots in it. So what you do is you step in the center, both feet, can you see? Mm-hmm. And this end point should go to my armpits. I'm gonna go back. It's too big. Yeah, it goes all the way to my shoulder. So this is too big. So ideally, the handle should fit comfortably under your armpit, and that would be a proper fit for your jump rope. As you can see, I put knots in this because it's too big. So if it's too big, you're gonna, jump roping again is kind of a ritual, a preparation into the shadow boxing. Great cardiovascular, great for the lymphatic system. But if it's too big, you're gonna start, you're gonna like get your feet all caught up in it. Yeah. So I'm just gonna show you. Should I just show you a jab and a cross?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. So I can fight both ways, but I'm a righty normally. So my stance is my left foot is in front, my right foot is in back, 45. You want to not be too close, or you're gonna fall. You don't want to be too wide. You want to be like have the space between you that you feel equal weight on both legs, right? And then so this would be my jab hand. So it's up here by my face, by my eye line. You want to hold it in tight. There's a lot of people that fight. You should be here. You should be here. MMA people are like this. They create like a little cage around them. But, around here. So you want to protect the face. Always protect the face. So you want to have one hand here. And the jab goes out and comes back in. And go out. And, a lot of people will do this. No, the full extension out, full extension back in. So like this is a magnet in here, and you go out and it comes right back. Goes out, comes right back. And if you notice,
it's a quick action though, right? Like when you're in there, it's like
yeah. So
yeah.
Exhale. But you want to make sure that you go out and in, out and in, and full extension. You see how I'm even turning my
yeah. There's a
shoulders?
rotation to your shoulder.
Yeah, there's a rotation, so that means it gives you an extra 3 inches if you're fighting. Like if I do this, see? But if I do this, so it's jab, jab, jab. Same arm as the lead leg. So my right leg is forward, my right arm is a jab. Cross. Cross is the midline of the body, right? And you use your hips. Women, let those hips work for you, right? So you want to push the hips. Hips don't lie, right? We don't have the body strength, but we got the hips. So we want to use the whole body. So it goes out and in, out and in. So it's jab, cross, jab, cross, jab, cross. Okay? Exhale. There you go. 1, 2, and bring it right back to your face.
Always be protecting your face.
Don't let your face get hit. I got hit in the face once before. It wasn't nice. Jab, cross, okay? So that's it. You can have fun. Did some shadow work. Now you're doing some shadow boxing. Jab, cross.
And how are your, what's your situation with like your feet and your footwork? And like, are you on like the balls of your feet? Are you moving?
That's a good question. Let me, next time I don't know how I'm gonna.
You're good. We could see it.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
So you're on the balls of your toe. Good question, Cal. You're on your balls. You're up and you're light. And what happens is when you do a cross, my back foot will pivot. So I allow my hip to go forward. If it doesn't, it's like almost like a warrior one. You get kind of caught up in your hip.
Yeah.
You pivot. So basically you think of the punch starting in the ankle. Okay, so ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, wrist. So it goes out, comes back. It's all one movement.
Yeah, it's all connected.
All connected.
That reminds me of like the pivot of if you've ever been to like the driving range or played golf, when you're swinging and you swing through, that pivot is exactly the same pivot on that back leg.
Exactly, it is. So it's a pivot, and also with the jab too, if you pivot. So my right toe right now is kind of 45-degree angle, but when I do my jab, I turn it so it's almost not quite perpendicular, but I turn it. So it turns, see? It turns. So both, again, punches start with the feet, ankle, knees, hips, shoulder, wrist.
It's a great workout too.
So it's like jab, cross, jab, cross, jab, cross. Shh, don't forget to breathe. That's like the hara, the solar plex. You're bringing those lower chakras into the action. In Japanese martial arts, the hara is your energy force, your chi. So that's why it's so important to engage the hips and this whole region. It's that, and again, that energy, let's bring in that cosmic womb.
Yes, all the things.
Bringing in the feminine right here.
Right here. All right, well, this was great. Thank you so much for the demonstration.
So just jab cross for now. You can just work on the
jab cross for now, and you'll show us a little bit more next time.
I'll show the hooks next time, so it could be jab cross, hook, and then uppercuts on the third one. So you'll have jab cross, the uppercuts, so these, and the hooks.
All right. Well, this was fun. I hope everyone joins us next time. We're going to talk a little bit more about the balanced integration of feminine and masculine energy. And I think Kelly's going to start us off with a guided meditation next time. So that'll be great. Looking forward to that.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you
very much. This was amazing.
This was so much fun. Thank you all.